Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network. For the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews, press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of iTalk Movies here at the Popcorn Talk Network. I'm your host, Megan Salinas, and joining me on our very first episode, Brad Hawkins.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. I'm like, hi, cameras. So many cameras.
Hello, studio
I
audience.
know, right? Look at this. And I'm your first?
Yes.
I'm your first.
You are our very first interview for iTalk Movies.
You never forget your first.
Nope.
No, this is going to be special.
I guarantee that this is an interview I will never forget.
I can guarantee it.
We've definitely been having a little bit of fun as we've been getting set up here in the studios. Before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and remind our listeners that if they haven't done yet, they should subscribe to the Popcorn Talk on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, all that fun stuff. And don't forget to subscribe at the Popcorn Talk on Twitter. So be sure to do that. And if you have any questions for our awesome guest, you can tweet at me directly at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. Brad, if people want to throw questions at you, do you want to throw your Twitter handle?
Oh, yeah. I'm a high-tech redneck. I have a handle at Mr. Brad Hawkins. So at Mr. Brad Hawkins. Super easy. I got one that covers all of those. So I lucked up.
There you go. That's all of your social media stuff?
Yes, at Mr. Brad Hawkins. So easy.
Fantastic.
I try to keep things easy so I can remember them.
I know. That's why I don't have an Instagram. I was like, I'm going to have to get another username and all that other stuff.
The problem with me and all my friends, because I've got a bunch of guys that do Comic Cons, and I got a lot of friends that are like, dude, you're not on Instagram yet? Or you don't have a Twitter thing? And I was like, I know. And I felt like I was so behind that I couldn't catch up. So like, go ahead and get started. But the problem was then I started putting a lot of my personal stuff and personal pictures and personal videos. And I was like, whoa, a lot of people are going to start looking at this. Boyhood came out and I was like, delete.
I need to scale it back a bit.
Yeah. Or bury it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Boyhood, wow, what an amazing film. Just the concept has just blown everybody away. Just talking about all of the nominations, all of the awards, and just the overall process of making a movie over the course of 12 years. It hasn't been done before.
Never. No. It's something in cinematic history, and I don't think anybody will ever attempt it again. I mean, we were thinking about it, a lot of the cast and the director, Richard Linklater. We were talking about it, and I was like, imagine someone doing an 8-year project or a 10-year project. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, you're trying to do another Boyhood, because now it's gonna become a thing. It's gonna be like, oh, you're attempting to recreate that, and like you said, it's never been done before, and all of us are just excited. I mean, just whatever the awards and nominations and all that stuff, that's fantastic. But to be a part of cinematic history, I think that's really special. That's something that'll endure. Yeah,
and I personally wonder about the time commitment, because you were involved, I want to say, probably about 2 or 3 years of this entire process.
Yeah, 3 years.
Did you ever forget that you were making that movie? Because I imagine there was so much time going by.
Yes. It's easy. It's like going on a date with someone, a couple of times, and then, hey, I'll talk to you in a year. You kind of like on the next date, you're like, where do we leave off? Your parents, right? Okay, let's go. So yeah, it felt like that because it was a lot of stop and go. And as an actor, you want consistency, you want momentum, you want time spent with other actors so that your storylines and you bond as the movie or the TV show is filmed. So we'd shoot for 2 to 4 days, and they're like, okay, we'll see you next year. So that was difficult. I think that was the most challenging part about the whole movie. The filming process itself was pretty lax and laid back and very comfortable. We were surrounded by great actors, and everybody was just so accommodating. So the hardest part was catching up on where we were and where we were going to go.
Yeah, that's got to be a heck of a job for the continuity, the script supervisor, trying to get everything straight.
Exactly, and even for the editor. The editor was nominated for an Academy Award for editing because they had to switch formats. In the 12 years, it went from 35 to digital. So she had to basically make that transition, seamless, so that it looked like we filmed in one format for the entire 12 years. So a lot of changes, a lot of technological advancements in 12 years.
Yeah, there were still VHSs when you guys started taping.
Right? That's so scary because I just found a box of old television shows and things, and I was like, wow, I don't want to, these are gonna die, or they're gonna degrade, and I need to put them on DVD. But it's weird when you're going through you're going online trying to find out. You're like, who can convert VHS? Hi, I'm a dying breed. I have VHS I need to convert. They're like, we take all types here. Come on.
You feel like you're making some weird black market deal
I do.
trying to do that.
Yeah.
I recently brought home a bunch of stuff from home, and I have like a box with some VHS tapes in it. I was like, I can't wait to watch these. I have no way of watching them.
You're like, wait, I have to go buy a VCR so I can watch these. And I did. I had to go do that. I was like, because I did one of those home units in the very beginning. The you could convert your own thing from VHS to DVD. It's just go pay someone to do it. Trust me, you're gonna wear yourself out.
Well, award well deserved then, for sure, because that's just a technical nightmare, I imagine.
Yeah.
I want to know, when they pitched it to you, or when you initially got the job, did you think, this is crazy, this is never going to work?
No, I didn't think it wasn't going to work. I mean, I was a big fan, and every time I talk about Richard, the director, writer-director, basically the brains behind the entire thing, it's Linklater, and I'll always call him Rick, because once you're on set, everybody just calls him Rick. But when I got the chance, the casting director in Austin, I was a working actor in Dallas and Austin at the time, and they were like, hey, I want to bring you down and introduce you to Rick, and he's doing this really cool project, and they gave me a little bit of information on the phone, but when I drove down and I met with him, it was very similar to this. We were just in a little trailer and hanging out, and he was telling me what the project was, who all was involved, and he wanted to create a new character for Patricia Arquette's character, kind of a love interest that's a little more positive. Like her last, her husband that she just got out of a relationship with was physically and verbally abusive, and he was like, I think she needs a good guy now. So that was what we talked about when we created Jim, and then we just did a little improv for about 15 minutes, and he's like, I love that.
Did they let you improv on set?
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what most people don't know, is there was no official Boyhood script. And that's something people just either don't really know, or it's not really mentioned that much. I talk about it in our interviews because I think it adds another layer of wow factor. One, you shoot it over 12 years, and two, there's no script. Nobody's ever done that either. So, and what I'm talking about is every TV show or movie I've ever done, you audition, here's the scenes for your audition, then when you get the job, here's the full script, and here are all your scenes, and then you learn those as you go. So whenever you go on set, the beginning, middle, and end of the entire TV show or the movie. None of us knew where any of this was going. It was all in Rick's head. And that was the brilliance and the insanity of what he was doing, was only he knows where he's taken the story. So every year we'd meet up, he'd be like, okay, we came from here. Here's where I'd like to go. And then all the actors would get together and we would improv the scenes. And then he'd be like, I love that. Let's keep that. Let's lose that. I don't want to go that direction. And then he would transcribe the scenes as we were improving them, and we get our scenes the night before we shoot. So it was terrifying.
So basically the story was being created as the movie was being made.
In his mind, he knew exactly where he wanted to go. I don't even think he told the producers, the people that actually put up the money from IFC. I don't think that he actually told them where the direction was going to be going. So it was scary for everybody, because he's gambling their money over 12 years with no guarantee of return, and 12 years is a long time when you're a production company, because they'd like to get their money back as soon as possible. So, and as actors, we were just like, every year we didn't know where it was going. So it was exciting, but it was also terrifying, because it was like, what are we shooting tomorrow? I don't know. I have no idea. We're going to figure it out. Okay.
Do you like being able to kind of go in and dive in and not really know what's coming, or do you kind of like to prepare a little bit more?
Me, because I'm OCD and I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my craft. I want to know what I'm doing. I want to study it. I want to really dig in and dig into the character. But with this, in hindsight, now that I've done it, I love it. But in the moment, it was scary, because you're just like, I don't know what we're going to shoot tomorrow, and I'm going to do a scene with Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke, and I felt a little intimidated. I was like, I don't want to show up and and not be able to deliver and not be not give a solid performance. But now that I've done it, it's kind of it's organic, and it's really cool, and it's something that I've never done before. And I was like, that was how I would do all of my. So I would prefer to do all of my scenes moving forward, so that you are a part of the creative process with the director and the other actors. Then it didn't feel like acting. that table scene with me talking about being, overseas in the war and the whole thing, that was a monologue that I created with one of the guys on set, and he was actually his story. So I got to tell his story at the dinner table, and by the time I stood it up, I was like, it didn't even feel like a monologue. It just felt like me sitting down telling you a story.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, man. I'm really glad that you said that because, I don't think people really realize that when they go into that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I think if you go into it, if I just gave you the DVD or just said, hey, here's a movie ticket for Boyhood, you knew nothing about it, somehow you escaped all the press and all the, the Rotten Tomatoes reviews and everything and all the stuff that made it like this wow factor in 12 years and all this stuff, watch a boy grow up for 12 years. If I took all that out of it and you watch the movie, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's got a solid soundtrack. But then when you find out all the little things, you're like, this is an independent movie done for $4 million, filmed over 12 years, and there is no script. Go watch that. And you watch it, and then you're like, okay, wow, okay. I think it adds more to how clever and how special the project was.
That's really cool. Like I really want to sit down and watch the behind the scenes documentary when it comes out on DVD.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of the movie. Even on this side, one, I'm glad we created it. I'm glad to be a part of it. But then I'm gonna sit down just like you, and I'm gonna be like, oh, what did they do? They have a coffee table book. This Boyhood. It's like 12 years and photos, and I had bought that.
Like a scrapbook.
Oh yeah, it is.
Really
it's
cool.
a coffee table book, and I got one of the pictures in there. So I was like, this is a perfect Christmas gift.
Did they have a blooper reel by any chance?
I would hope so, but there wasn't a lot of that I remember. There wasn't a lot of goofing off. And that sounds kind of lame, but because I've worked on other shows and all I do, I'm a prankster. I just like to mess with people all the time. You saw that before we started rolling. It was kind of, I guess, because we were only there for a certain amount of time and everybody was doing different things. It just wasn't a whole bunch of, joking. It was just like we went there and we hung out and we did our job. It was very casual, not meaning it was, very strict, but it was just very casual.
There wasn't really a need to joke around. It was that laid back.
Yeah, it was friends getting together, and it felt like in my world, it felt like a student film. Very small crew, maybe about 20 people on the crew, single camera, and just very relaxed. You'd be over at a house or an apartment or out in a field or in the front yard or something like that. It was just natural surroundings, so you weren't on a studio. You weren't in a set that had to be fabricated. It was all natural surroundings, single camera. I don't even remember seeing the camera most of the time, when you feel like we're talking and there are all these cameras.
It's like, what cameras?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, it just didn't feel like that. So it was very natural and very, very casual and comfortable.
That's too funny. I was going to ask if anybody had pulled any pranks, but it sounds like you are a prankster.
No, I would love
set.
to. I'm the one. But see, I think because of when you do a TV show, you get so comfortable with everybody on the crew and everybody and you come in there day in, day out, 5 days a week, and you shoot for 12 hours a day. You get so comfortable that you can start doing stuff because it's your family, and you can start, sticking things in cabinets so when they open it up, there's something else surprising there, and you can have bloopers and stuff like that. When you're on a movie like this, I was thinking, I'm like, well, I don't want to do a prank on Patricia because she might freak out, and I don't want to do that on Ethan because I might mess up the way his process works. And so I think I was treading lightly because I just didn't really know if that was going to upset anybody.
Well, and you guys were only getting together every couple years, so it's a little bit different than when you're seeing everybody day in and day out.
Yeah, and that's when the fun happens, is because I know that I can, you find out more about them personally, so you can push buttons and stuff like that, and you dig a little bit, but we all have buttons.
Indeed.
Some people have remotes.
It doesn't take a lot.
No.
Going off of Boyhood, I wanted to talk about your background, actually. I wanted to know what made you want to get into acting. Did you have kind of a eureka moment, or was it something you kind of just fell into?
Yeah, well, it was something that I fell into. I was never into, I wasn't in the drama, club. I didn't do theater. I didn't do plays or anything like that. I was a jock growing up, and I was in the South. I grew up between South Carolina and Texas, back and forth. My mom and dad split up, so back and forth between those two places. And I was just always into sports: baseball, football, wrestling, basketball. I sucked at basketball. I'm 5'9", so I just there's no dunking going on. But in growing through high school, that was kind of my thing. And then when I was a junior in high school, and I had someone kind of discover me or whatever. And it was a scout. It was a local scout for a modeling and acting agency. And he's like, "Hey man, you got a good look, and what are you going to do after high school?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so he kind of pulled me into some commercial classes where they were teaching how to be, commercial actors and hit your mark, and here's your lights, and here's your lines, and there's the camera. And I just kind of started to really enjoy it, and I was like, "Oh, this is a new challenge." And then I did an audition for a bunch of producers and managers from LA, and I got picked up, and they were like, "If you don't have any plans after high school, we'd love to have you in LA. We think you could do real well." And all of a sudden high school's over, and I'm like, what am I gonna do now? So I packed up everything in my car and drove out, and got really lucky right out the gate. Within the first 6 months, I got my first job. So yeah, my other acting friends hate me about that, but I got lucky early. It's been harder later in my career to get more work, believe it or not. It's odd. That's a weird reality. But initially, right out the gate, I was really fortunate.
That's the freelance life. You never know what you're going to get.
You don't. And it's for me, it's like the ultimate gamble. We talk about, friend of mine that bet or gamble or lucky in Vegas, and they look at me and I'm like, man, this is the ultimate career gamble, because you never know. I mean, I could leave this studio and tomorrow I could get a call that could change my life. I had an acting class one time with David Faustino, Bud Bundy on, Married with Children. And we always looked up to him because we're like, dude, you were on a hit show, one of the biggest comedies out there. And we were all up and coming actors. And he goes, look, I'll be honest with you guys. He goes, I walked in the right room at the right time. I was the right age, the right look, and it turned into 11 years. He goes, there's no formula behind that. He goes, just, it's right time, right place. And I was fortunate enough to be the guy that they picked. And it could change your whole life. And I think that's part of the lure, too. You always want to believe that around every corner, the next phone call, the next audition could be something that's going to change your life. I get excited by it.
So for anybody who's thinking about doing exactly what you did,
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. No, I'm gonna stay constructive. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, what advice would you give them for anybody who wants to come out here and try to make a name for themselves?
Well, one, be patient. That's one of the. I'm going on year 24 now, so I think I really started to get my momentum and get my break right around that 8 to 10 year mark. And that's not to say that my timeline is the way that everybody is. Some people get very lucky, right place, right time, right look, right out the gate, and it spirals off into an amazing career. But for me, I just say be patient. Really believe in what you do, because I wasn't an actor coming into this game, but I really got into class. I got surrounded by some great other actors that I would learn from their styles, and I met some great coaches, some great teachers here in Los Angeles that really got me into the craft. And it's different than just you just stand on, you stand there and you say some lines and they pay you for that. And I'm like, there's a lot more to that. Whenever I'm breaking down a script or scene or a character, and you're writing 10 pages of backstory for a person that you've never met, and and you're creating all this stuff as you go. Without those lessons, you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to create a world that doesn't exist, and create it for a character and then embody that. And that's it's a tricky process, but that's why I have so much respect for it. But patience is good, and surround yourself with the right people.
That's good. And just speaking of honing your craft, you're pretty well-rounded. Not only are you an actor, you also do voice acting, and you're also in the country music scene.
Yeah, that was a stint right there. Yeah. Well, when it comes to characters, it's funny because I've done probably, 30 plus TV shows, like different guest appearances. I keep getting bad guys. I don't know why. But
it's fun to play villains, right?
I love playing bad guys. I love it because it's someone that I'm not. So it takes a lot to get me upset. I'm pretty mellow, pretty relaxed, but I can fly off. But if someone's trying to be mean, if someone's intentionally trying to disrespect you, I can flip the switch. But But in general, I'm a pretty nice guy. But it's funny because I gravitate towards those roles because those are the most colorful, and those are the ones where you get to be someone you're not. So it's fun because you get to do stuff that you don't get to do in your normal life, and it's fun to walk down that path a little bit. So Bad Guys have been a lot of fun. Voiceover's been interesting. Funimation is the company in Dallas, and I'm from Dallas, so I live there, and they have a great studio, and they shoot everything. They do all of the American voiceovers for all the anime shows. So I mean, Dragon Ball Z, and I mean everything. Gunslinger Girl, and I mean Trigun. We
Attack
did Trigun.
on Titan.
Yeah, yeah. And I just Dragonaut. What else did we do? Dragonaut. We did the Walking Dead video game. That was fun. Because I was a big fan of the show. I'm still a big fan of the show. So it's like, we got to do the video game? Because then you're immortal. Once you're in a video game, you're immortal.
You're part of the universe.
Yeah, you're like, that is my footprint either. And I've had the first show I did was called VR Troopers, it was like a Power Rangers spinoff. And when DC Comic came out with the comic books, I was like, I am immortal. I have a comic book. I have a DC comic book and, a real video game. I'm like, these are things that no one can take away from you. I had a Happy Meal.
That's pretty
I
sweet.
had a Happy Meal. Friggin' Happy Meal at McDonald's. Like
That's
I rolled
awesome.
through the drive-thru and I was like, "I'll take a Happy Meal, please." And I'd hold it up next to my face, and she didn't know who the hell it was. So,
Well, I imagine they had the little helmet on.
it was so exciting. It was so exciting. Yeah, because I mean that was. I think that's when you've arrived too. When you have a Happy Meal, I think that's when you've arrived.
I would save that.
yeah.
That's probably worth a lot of money now.
Yeah. Oh, it's all over eBay. I'm sure I can go. They've got
that's
toys
awesome.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just speaking of VR, because it was kind of a sister show to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, did you have to do any martial arts training for that?
I had some. I mean, through my life, I took martial arts as kind of just more of a thing because outside of sports, I wanted to have something other than sports in my life. And my mom got me started into it, kind of like a self-defense, building up your, just your confidence and things like that. So I started taking Taekwondo, and I got to like my brown belt, I think. So I had general knowledge of punches and kicks and blocks and things like that, but nothing that was the full-blown, the special looking big, hands, kicks, jump, spinning
Couldn't
kick.
do any Matrix
yeah,
moves.
all that. Yeah. Butterfly twist and this and all that stuff. I didn't learn that until once I got on the show. I had enough knowledge to get the job, but once I got it, I was like, wow, these guys are really good, and they flip all over the place, and I got to learn that stuff. So we learned from the guys that were our stunt doubles, and some of our stunt doubles were also stunt doubles on Power Rangers, which was right next door. So we were lucky enough to be able to be around this, this wealth, this pool of martial arts and kung fu and wushu, and all these guys were phenomenal gymnasts. I mean, too. So I'd see them do something that I was like, well, I can learn that. Then they'd throw some crazy trick. I'm like, I'm not going to even try that. I'll break everything trying that. But we were lucky enough to be surrounded by these guys, and I got to learn how to do these moves. And I was like, teach me that. One of the guys was like one of Jackie Chan's stunt doubles, and he was phenomenal. And I was like, show me some of that Jackie stuff. I want to know. So he pulled me aside and showed me some really cool moves. And then you got better and better because you just tried to master what they were teaching you.
That's got to be something really cool to have on your resume, like awesome, extensive martial arts training.
Somehow that part of that line on my resume gets me more, gets me made fun of, or it becomes the punchline more than anything. It's my friends, even now, I just, I'm here in Los Angeles, and we've been promoting Boyhood over the last couple of months, and I'm hearing friends that I haven't seen in 10, 15 years, and I go out to their thing, and one of them's in a rock band in Hollywood, and he's like, we got Brad Hawkins for the movie Boyhood and VR Troopers. He was a Power Ranger. Everybody know that? I'm like, why can't we live in the now? Why can't we talk about 24 years
You know
later,
what?
I'm in an
He's
Academy Award-winning movie. Can we let it go? Can we let it die?
You know what? He's just jealous he was never a Happy Meal.
Right? That's
Forget that guy.
I should be like Flava Flav and just get a chain with a Happy Meal hanging off around it, right? It's my token.
Makes sense. But no, I think that's really cool. And actually, I was wondering, because that show, or both shows, Power Rangers and VR Troopers, had a lot of ADR work because of all the helmets and everything like that.
Probably 100 to 200 loops an episode.
Is
So I
that
got
how-
really good at that. I think which helped with Funimation.
I was going to say, is that kind of what led you into voice acting too?
Yeah, I mean, I was very comfortable in the studio. You get after a while, you kind of get down to where it's a formula of, okay, say these lines, and and you go through the whole thing. We got to the point where we got so good at it, we wouldn't even need to watch the action scene. It'd be like, they're like, okay, preview. We didn't even preview. We just like roll tape. And you could see the move coming before, when you were going to jump, when you were going to punch, when you were going to kick. And so we got really good at that. So when I came back to Texas, I was like, guys, if it's ADR, but it's a different ADR. Now you're matching flaps is what they call it. So it's specific on when you say what you say.
It's a little bit more technical.
Yeah, with the helmet on, I could say something or not say something, and all the person has to do is nod
It's like
their
a little
head.
bobblehead.
It's like a bobblehead, Let's go save the world. Or you could just say no.
So it's a little bit more difficult when you're dubbing over anime than just when you go in for, like, say, The Walking Dead.
Yeah, because those guys are very specific. I mean, I give a lot of credit to the producers at Funimation, and a lot of those guys are the voices of a lot of the shows because their voices are fantastic. And I'll listen to them, and they'll like, hey, Brad, let's try this line like this. And I'm like, you sounded great. Why are you not in here? I would cast you. And but they're very specific because we're talking milliseconds that they have to make your voice go in there. I keep doing that because that's how it is.
Yeah, there's not really any wiggle room at all.
The hardest one is where his mouth is open completely for like 6 seconds. I'm like, that's the longest word ever. It's like, no, you're gonna say this whole line while his mouth's open. I'm like, that makes no sense. Okay.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
There is one anime film that I want to talk about. You were in the Trigun film.
Yep, Ballons Rumble. Yep.
You were Wolfwood, and he is a fan favorite. And I was wondering if there was any pressure going into that because he is so dear to the fans.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know what shoes I was stepping into, but the producer that hired me for the job, he goes, I just want to let you know, this is a little bit different. He goes, whenever we do the other anime series, these voices haven't been heard, so you're establishing that character for the first time. I was like, really cool. And he goes, well, Trigun's a little different. He goes, you've got, you are coming in on the tail end of this, and Wolfwood is a very specific character. And he goes, you're either going to be liked or not liked. He goes, I was like, let's try for liked. Let's really try for liked. But I just wanted to make the character fun, and he was kind of condescending and, kind of a smartass, and I'm like, that's me anyway. So I think I got pretty close to it. But once I saw it done, and then there's just a part of me, like, I'm still a kid watching TV and watching movies, so I'm like, I get to see the video or I watch it, and he's like, hey, you want to see what we did? I'm like, yeah, and I'm watching it. I'm like, so I still get a kick out of it. I remember going to the premiere of Boyhood, and I was sitting there, I was like, this is my first movie. My first big screen movie.
This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah. So if they didn't cut me out, it was great. So, but they didn't, and I was scared. I was like, what if they cut me out of the entire movie? And they kept everything. So I was excited. And it's cool. I still get a kick out of seeing work that I've done, not just because of me, but it's neat that it's something that I've always wanted to do, and now I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, it's cool, man. It's just cool to see that you've accomplished something, that you've contributed.
Yeah, that you build up something and that it's there up on the screen. That's awesome. Yeah. Now, I know that since you've been at this for over 20 years, I know it's probably insanely hard to pick, but do you have a favorite? Or are you always just like, okay, that job's over, on to the next thing?
Do I have a favorite job that I've done?
Mm-hmm. Or favorite role or favorite villain?
Well, it's different for different reasons. I have favorite shows for different reasons. So my favorite bad guy was Fastlane because I tested for the show, but Peter Facinelli from Twilight, he ended up getting that job. Good looking guy, perfect for the role, but it was a McG show. I was a big fan of McG as a director. Had Bill Bellamy, Bill's a comedian. He and I are still really good friends. I wanted that lead role so bad, and he ended up getting it, so they brought me back as a solid guest star, and I played a mafia, son. This guy's just nuts, kills people with golf clubs, and he's just crazy, and I was like, I love it. So I was excited to play that one because I just got to be just, a mafia kid, just nuts, and it was all fashion and awesome cars, and I get to kill people. I'm like, this is great. So I like that one for that reason. Boyhood, obviously, because that's probably the biggest thing I've done, and maybe, who knows, maybe ever do. I mean, 6 Academy Award nominations for Boyhood.
Probably most unique, too.
And I mean, you're talking about something that I'm going, look, guys, if it ends with that, I'm going out on a high. I feel like, Tom Brady. I could be good. I could be happy because I've accomplished this up to this point, and I feel like we've done something really really special. So Boyhood, for what it is. And I did a little guest spot on a show called Good Guys, and I played Bradley Whitford. I played his, there's a movie about him earlier, so I had this big bushy mustache, and my hair was all stuck up in a 70s throwback leather vest, and I was driving a Trans Am, and all of that just sounded cool. I was just like, I get to shoot a gun, and I have a mustache, and a leather coat, and a Trans Am. I'm like, this is great. This is like Smokey and the Bandit.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I was excited about that. So I like him for different reasons.
All right, cool. Now, I want to talk about the future a little bit.
God, if you can tell me what's going to be like. Please tell me there's good things happening.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Good.
I'm personally a huge fan of horror movies. And a little birdie told me you were working on a horror movie. I know it's probably still early, and I imagine that there's a bunch of stuff you can't talk about, but is there anything you can kind of give us just for my own gratification?
There is a horror movie that I wrote with a writing partner of mine, Max Myers, called The Legend of Light Road. I'm not sure if it's going to be Legend of Light Road or Light Road, but it was basically a story from my childhood in South Carolina, and we had this road behind an old pawn shop, and there were no lights, but it was a white gravel road, and a long time ago someone had been killed on that road. Basically, this woman, her husband had been murdered, and basically she's got this lantern, and she goes through the forest and tries to find her missing husband. This is the legend, and this is what I grew up. This is the real legend of what I remember growing up. And every time we would go out to that road, you drive out there, you turn off your headlights, and eventually you'll see the light, and it'll come down, it chases you down the highway. Sometimes you can't turn on your car, sometimes the windows don't roll up. I mean, it was
Tell me
you
didn't ever try that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was my experience. And why not? It's an urban legend in a small town. There's nothing else to do. So let's go to Light Road, and let's take people that have never been, so that they get
That's what gets people killed in horror movies, though.
That's exactly why we wrote it. It's exactly why we wrote it. And so I had my personal experience when I talked to a couple of my family members, and I told them I was writing the script, and I told them about Light Road. You could just see them get white, and they were just like, I have a story too. And they would tell me their story from when they were kids. And then you go online and you look up, Light Road, Somerville, South Carolina, and there are people with other stories that have written stories online, the same exact story, and I've never met these people. So we just basically adapted it into a screenplay with an ensemble, young cast, and put some really cool twists. I'm a huge horror film fan, so but I grew up on like Friday the 13th and Chainsaw Massacre, and these like the originals in Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. So I wanted something that was something that I would walk away from going, that's a good horror film. So I wasn't going to let it get cheesy.
That's good.
Yeah, I was grading it, and I was like, can't do that.
Yeah, you can always tell with a horror movie when it's made by people who love horror movies, as opposed to people who don't.
Look at Rob Zombie. I think Rob Zombie is one of the best horror film directors out there, because he's a lover of horror films. And he's going, look, man, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it to where, and he makes it disturbing, but that's what makes him one of the best. And I was like, like you said, you can tell he's a fan because of the style and how he pays tribute to it.
Now I have to ask, having now that I know how big of a horror fan you are, what's your favorite scary movie?
Oh boy, gosh, going back, we'll see, and then scary for different reasons.
I know. Again, there's so many different types. There's so many subgenres.
Yeah, a lot of the Asian stuff that's out there, and you'll find out a lot of current horror film directors are inspired by Asian horror films, and they're twisted. They're just twisted.
I just watched the original Grudge not too long ago, so yeah.
Yeah, no, there's some twisted stuff in there, but I mean, and I went back and watched some of those movies so I could bring myself. I was like, what are these guys all inspired about? And I went and watched. I was like, that's just weird, that's scary. But I mean, I'm a classic guy. Even Psycho, as weird as that was, it was such a groundbreaking, Alfred Hitchcock original. Is just such and I watched the remake with Vince Vaughn just the other night too.
No.
I know, and I was like, stop. Some things are sacred. Some things are sacred. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. It was fine. But I mean, I look back, and truthfully, when Jason Voorhees jumped out of the water and grabbed that girl out of the boat in Friday the 13th, the very first movie, it scared the hell out of me. And I'll never forget, because I was so sucked in, and I was just watching, and she wakes up in the little boat, and everything's peaceful, and the music, and then he jumps out, and I don't know how old I was at the time, maybe 7 or 8, and It almost ruined me because I didn't know if I wanted to go back for more horror films, and then I was like, okay, I want more.
That's usually what happens.
Exorcist, I couldn't watch until I was in my teens. The first time my friends watched it, I had pillows over my head. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't even hear it. I couldn't listen to it because it disturbed me so much. But as I got older, I was just like, okay, I'm ready. Let's get this on. Poltergeist, I'm kind of excited that they're remaking that.
I'm torn.
I want to see. I want to see what they can do with today's technology. Because Poltergeist was way ahead of its time.
I'm torn on that one because one of the things I've heard about it is that they're actually trying to do it like they did the Evil Dead remake, where it's kind of a remake / sequel. So on the one hand, that's promising, and Sam Raimi actually, when he produces stuff, they're actually usually pretty decent. But I don't know, because that one hit me hard when I was a kid. So I'm like, I don't know if I want anyone to touch that one.
Well, and you didn't find out to the end that it was built on a cemetery. The original,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
at the end, and they're already putting it in the trailer. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is built on an old, cemetery, old burial ground." So going into it, you wanted to believe that it was a normal American home and something was going on, but you found out at the end that
And the
it was
clown doesn't look as scary.
not at all.
No.
And that clown messed me up.
Exactly.
Messed me up.
So they have their work cut out for them. Well, we are running a little bit short on time, but I wanted to ask if you have any other upcoming projects that you can talk. I know it's kind of tough with NDAs and everything, but is there anything you can talk
we're
about?
developing the horror film, so I'm excited about that. It's going to be a low budget horror film, and the truth is, I'm excited that we'll get a chance to tell the story of something that I grew up, around. So paying tribute to that. I'm in Hollywood right now. We're doing it's pilot season right now, so I'm meeting with some people, and it's funny because I had searched for some research material, and I ran across the AfterBuzz follow up. I was like, these guys are awesome. These guys are everywhere. But I'm meeting with producers right now. It's about pilot season. And it's getting to see what shows are out there. There's a lot of really cool scripts. So hopefully someone will want to scoop up the guy from Boyhood and put him to work, because I love working. I do.
Great. Do you have any other interests outside of acting and country music? Anything that, like, what do you do when you have time? Because I know, like, everybody who works in this industry doesn't really have time. But when you do have time.
My thing is traveling. I feel like I got to a point in my life where I was like, I know I've worked really hard and I've invested a lot of time into my craft, which it'll suck you up. It'll really, between studying and classes and auditions and going to this job and that shoot and all that stuff. But the thing that I enjoy more than anything is traveling. I really do. I think if I could turn acting into a job where it takes me to different countries and I could do what I love to do and also see the rest of the world, I think that'd be the coolest job in the world, because there's just so much of the world I haven't seen, and I'm dying to go, and I keep like looking, and I'm like, I want to go over there. So I've seen pretty much everything in the States, and now I want to venture out. So traveling and definitely seeing the rest of the world is really high on my list right now.
That's good. I hope you get a chance to go out.
Yeah.
Scotland's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw a thing on, like, it was like I get Travel Zoo or whatever app I have on my thing, and it's like, $9.99, 7 days in Ireland. I was like,
That's a dangerous website because it's like,
oh,
I could totally do that. Oh, that's still expensive.
I could still do that. I was like 7 days in Ireland. I was like, wow, what am I doing for 7 days?
Well, I hope you get a chance to get out there because it's absolutely gorgeous. Maybe when it warms up a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I'm from Texas, so they're freezing right now, and they're like, my friends were sending screenshots of weather back and forth. They hate me.
Ooh, it's
they hate me.
Slightly chilled in here in California.
It was 69. I go, yeah, it's kind of chilly today. Like,
maybe I'll wear a scarf or something.
They're like, I hate you for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to come down and talk with us about Boyhood and about all the cool stuff that you've done.
No, it's nice to be able to, have time to talk.
I know.
It's like a 6-minute segment on a TV show, and they're like, okay, now weather.
No, it's nice to sit down and have a conversation. But where can people go if they want to find out more about you and about the work you're doing, especially if they want to find out more about that horror movie?
Sure. Like I said, all my social media handles are at Mr. Brad Hawkins. So that, my website, bradhawkins.com. I try to keep everything real simple. So if you go on Google, you put in my name, it all pops up, and I'm so glad.
That is good to hear. Not all of us get that.
Not all of us are that lucky, are we?
Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to come in. It was an absolute pleasure.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank all of you guys for tuning in. Again, my name is Megan Salinas, and you can follow me on Twitter at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows at our sister network, AfterBuzz. So be sure to tune into those as well. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. If I come back next time, I'm bringing a bottle of Patron. We're sitting right here.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Christian Harloff, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network. We would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.